Welcome! In this series of videos, we will look at software add-ons for both the PowerBasic console and Windows compilers. Today, we will look at creating a generic pie chart generator with the 3RMchart add-on from Rayner Morgan. Today, we're going to create a generic pie chart generator using RMchart. RMchart is a very useful utility which comes with its own help file. But as the help file itself suggests, the easiest way to get familiar with RMchart is to make use of the designer. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. If we load up the designer, it will automatically load the last project we were looking at. Now, as we saw yesterday, if we go up to File menu and get the source, it can get the ready-made source for our application. One thing to remember is save your chart. If you save your chart, it will save it as an RMC file, which can be loaded up later. That way, if you have to make any extensive changes to your code, you can always go into Designer, make the changes in here, get the source code again, and then merge that in with your existing code. Much easier. So let's get our code. And then we'll pop into PowerBasic and we'll paste in our code. Now we need the RMchart include file in the same location as our application, which we've done. There's our RMchart include. You also need the DLL in the same folder. Those are the only two things you'll need in your further development. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make some changes to this. Now if we compile this first of all, and we're going to call our application generic pie chart generator. Ideal. We're going to use this as a basis of our development. What we're going to do is we're going to add some parameters first of all. Now, our application needs to take parameters. We're going to start off with the basic 4 parameters. We'll want to save the file we've generated, so we need a parameter for that. We'll also need a parameter for the data, a parameter for the title, and a parameter for the legend. So there are 4 parameters, and we'll need to pick up the parameters from the command line. Now we don't need these declares, because PowerBasic will handle that for you quite happily. But before we actually show a dialog, we want to pick up our command line parameters. Now that can be done quite easily by using the command $. Anything on the command line will be picked up and populated into this global variable. Now we need to pick up the other 4 parameters. Now I've created a special function whose sole task in life is to pick up command line parameters. Now I'm not going to go through this function in detail because it probably take the entire length of this video to explain how it all works. But basically, when you make a call to this command line parameter function, it will return the value of the named parameter you're looking for. So, how it's actually used, one of the parameters we want to pick up is what is the location and the name of the file which you wish to save to. So all we have to do to pick up that parameter is basically call the function with the name of the parameter and the value of the whole command line. So the example for that one would be our command line would be something along these lines. It would be the name of the parameter and in quotes the path and the name of the file to create. Now we'll cover this at the end once we've actually got all of these in. We're going to do exactly the same for each of the other parameters. So the 4 key pieces of information are going to be stored in global variables. So once the dialog actually launches, which is down here, we call the do the chart function. Now we need to make no change to this, but we do have to go into the event handler. So let's have a look at the event handler. If you remember in here, the event handler has a number of variables defined at the top, and it has a number of events. Now it has all the events we actually need. What we need to do is to trigger them. Now what we're going to do, we're going to create a couple of parameters at the top of this function. One static, which is going to be a timer, and one variable, which is basically going to be the name and the path of the graphics file you wish to save. Now we're going to add in an initialization line of code when the form initializes, and in here we're going to set our timer. Now all I'm doing in here is set timer as a Windows API function. I'm passing it the parameter for the handle of the window. I'm saying I'm going to be timer number 1, and I'm going to trigger that timer after 1000 milliseconds, basically after a second. Now if you do that, you then can create a timer event which is going to trigger once this timer expires after a second, and in here we're going to basically let the thing run silently. First thing to do is we can kill off the timer because it's done its job, and then we need to pick up the name of the file, which is coming from our global variable. And having picked that up, we then need to make a call to the function which performs the saving of the file. Now this is an RMChart function, and we call the RMChart function, which basically draws our image to the file. It takes two parameters, the first parameter being the handle of the RMChart object, and the second parameter is the path and the name of the file. Once we've done that, effectively the dialog can end, and since this is the only dialog in the application itself ends. So all our application is going to do is take the command line parameters. It will then, having got those parameters, draw the chart on screen. After a second, the timer will kick in and it will save the graphic to the file specified, the dialog will end, and the application will end. So having done that, what we have to do now is we have to look at the part of the application which actually draws the chart on the screen. Do the chart. Now do the chart's doing everything we actually want, but some of the information we've got in here needs to be replaced with the global variables we've set up already. One thing we can do, in our footer where we've got created on Friday, we can amend that by quite simply adding in the date and time. The date dollar will return the US formatted date. If you wish to change this to your own local format, that's not a problem. I've got a function I can give you which will do that quite happily for the UK. Now, having done that, we have at the moment hard-coded our title is our first chart. Now, one of the global variables we passed is str title. So simply replacing that will replace the title. Now, once we get down here, we get into the section where the legends are being added. Now, we want to replace this with our data, so we might as well do it all in one go. We'll comment that line of code out, and in here we'll want to replace this with our code. Now, we're probably going to need a couple of local variables here, so we'll create a couple more new variables. And down here, what we're going to do is we want to redimension the double array which is used to hold the data. Now we have the data in a variable called global str data. So we need to work out how big that is. So parse count can be used for that. And the data we're going to be bringing in will be pipe delimited. Now if we did that, it would let if we had, for example, 2 pieces of data, it would be, A data would be sized for 2. Now the A data array actually counts from 0, so we want to reduce that by 1. Now we want to create our array using a simple for next loop. We'll pick up the value of each of the elements in the string, as so. So after the for next loop is actually finished, the array will be populated by however many elements we've actually got in that string. So that handles the data. Now we have to handle the legend. So we'll use an strtemp. We'll initialize that as blank, and another for next loop. And we'll use parse count again to work out how many elements there are in str data. And we will start to build up strtemp. And we will parse out of the global variable which holds the legend. Now we know that one is asterisk delimited. And just to make it look nice, I'm going to add on the value of the slice of the pie, just for clarity. And we'll put that in brackets with an asterisk at the end. And we're going to populate the null terminated string, and we will trim off the last asterisk. And that value there, SZTemp, is what goes into the add legend. So that's our data, our title, and the legend handled. So if we try compiling our program now, oh yeah, we've misspelled a variable. Now, how do we actually test this? Now, obviously, this is an application would be getting called from another application, one of your own. But to test it, we can create a very simple batch file. And we'll call this one pie chart. Now, obviously, we're executing the piechart.exe program, which was just compiled. We'll want to put into it the named parameter, and we'll also want to put in the legend, the data, and the title. The beauty of doing the command line parameters this way is it doesn't matter what order the command line parameters are in, and it also doesn't matter the casing of these names. So all we have to do is to populate each of these. If we put our title in perhaps as this, and our data, we'll try a simple pie chart in this case, 60/40, and our legend, console users and Windows users. Then all we need is the path to where we want to put the file. Now if we're going to put it in, we might as well put it into the same folder we're in at the moment. So we'll just put that in, and we will name the chart Chart 1. Now it can either be a JPG or a PNG. Take your pick. Now having done that, our batch file should be complete. So if we save that, and if we double click on our batch file now, our executable is actually called generic pie chart generator. So if we change that and save that, and then and there it's running. So it stayed on screen for a second. The only reason to leave it on screen for a second is just so if you're watching it, you can actually get to see it. Your chart1 JPEG file did materialize. So if we double click on that, and there is our chart. It has our title as we specified. It doesn't have the values. That's something we've missed in the code. Let's go back to the code. Now, although we put the values in, up here, it's still hard-coded to repopulate this array. So we'll take out those 2 lines of code and we will recompile. I see what we've missed. One of the parameters in the Add Grid List Series 1 is taking in the first element of the array plus the total number of elements in the array. Now, that at the moment is hard-coded for 4 elements, which is 0, 1, 2, and 3. We want to replace that with the value in the array that we're using. So if we change that to that, that should work nicely. Which should be the upper value is 3, so we're adding 1 because we're including the 0 element, so that should now be the right value. So if we compile that now, and we'll have a crack at our batch file again, there we are. We have a JPEG. It has a title. It has our 2 values of 60% and 40%, and it has our values on the bottom for the legend. Now, if we wish to change that to use something different, we can quite happily go in and edit our batch file. And for example, we're adding on an extra element. Now we've got 3 slices of the pie, so our legend will have to be expanded appropriately. So we've now got 3 slices of the pie, console users, Windows users, and both. 55, 14, 5. So if we save that, and let's as well change this to a PNG. Save that. Run our pie chart, and there we have 3 slices of the pie, and we have a PNG file now. PNG file, 3 slices, all without changing the generic program. Now obviously with any pie chart, the number of slices is obviously limited. RMChart will take quite a large number of slices before it starts to reuse the colours. But obviously pie charts are of the most use when you have a small number of slices. Having 100 slices in a pie chart is ridiculous, really. So there we go. We now have a generic program using RMChart which can generate pie charts. This can be used as part of an automated process to generate, for example, images for a website that are constantly refreshed, perhaps every hour, every 15 minutes, or many other uses. The same approach can obviously be used for any other type of chart you're using, and also any other element of the chart. For example, if you wish to specify on the command line where the legend was to appear, bottom, top, side, right or left, this could also be done to expand it. But that's it for today. Thank you for watching.